Everyone was smiling, wine glasses clinking, candles flickering, waiters sweeping by in smooth choreography, when I stood up and said, "I've been promoted to Director of Operations." Applause. Cheers. My manager beamed. My husband squeezed my hand. Then, exactly 3 seconds later, just like I knew she would, my sister gasped, clutched her stomach, and crumpled dramatically onto the floor. "Oh God, not again," someone whispered. Chaos erupted. Chairs scraped. A waiter dropped a glass. My mom shouted for water. My dad was already unbuttoning his shirt collar like he might faint in sympathy. And me? I calmly reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and connected it to the Bluetooth speaker. "Before we call the ambulance," I said, standing slowly, "I think it's time we all watched this." The room froze. I tapped play, and there she was, 20 minutes earlier, in the parking lot, laughing with her boyfriend, clutching her iced latte and saying, "As soon as she announces it, I'm going down." Like fully collapsing. "It'll steal the spotlight for the rest of the night. Just wait." My name is Riley. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because have you ever been gaslit so many times, you started second-guessing your own joy? Have you ever dimmed your own light out of guilt for someone else's theatrics? I used to feel sorry for her. Her mystery illness. The attention. The constant emergencies that only seemed to strike when I was finally winning. But not anymore. This time, I came prepared. Because some sisters fake illness. And some sisters record receipts. My sister was still writhing on the floor when the video ended. Nobody clapped. Nobody gasped. They just stared, like they were finally seeing the truth they'd ignored for years. Her eyes fluttered open. "Wow, what is this?" "Reality," I said. "Welcome to it." And while everyone stood there, too stunned to speak, I sat back down, took a sip of champagne, smiled at my promotion cake. Because the only thing sweeter than success is serving it cold. Silence thickened around us like fog. My sister blinked, still sprawled dramatically on the floor, like she forgot how legs work. But the spotlight she craved had shifted, hard. Everyone's eyes were glued to the screen. No tears now. No pity. Just disgust. The video had ended only seconds ago, but it rang louder than any scream she could fake. She sat up slowly, brushing imaginary dust from her designer blouse, voice trembling. "I was joking," she stammered. "You seriously recorded me? That's messed up, Riley." "No," I said calmly, leaning back in my chair. "What's messed up is faking a collapse every time I succeed." My mother stepped forward, still clutching the napkin she'd grabbed in the panic. "Honey, was that really?" "Yes, Mom," I said. That was 5 minutes before dinner, right before she parked in a handicapped spot she doesn't need, and smiled the whole way in. My sister's boyfriend looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. He was in the video, too. Laughing. Encouraging it. The drama's part of her charm, he'd said. "You've got to time it just right." She tried to stand, wobbling like she was still in character. "People here know I've been dealing with chronic issues for years," she said, voice tightening. "Not everything is about you." I laughed then. Not bitter. Just done. "You're right," I said. "Tonight wasn't supposed to be about you. But you made sure it was." I turned to the table of executives from my company, men and women who had watched the whole scene with narrowed eyes. My boss raised his glass and said quietly, "To Riley, for always coming prepared." A few people chuckled. My sister's face turned white, because for once, her drama hadn't stolen the spotlight. It had handed it to me. She stormed out 5 minutes later, dragging her humiliated boyfriend behind her like a broken prop. And the moment the door closed behind them, the room relaxed. Laughter returned. Wine poured. And my father, quiet and skeptical for years, clinked his glass to mine and said, "I'm sorry we let her do that to you for so long." I nodded, holding back tears, because it was the first time someone in the family finally said it. But this was just the start. She didn't know it yet, but that video was only one of many. She blocked me the next morning. Text, social, even email. A full digital tantrum, Exactly what I expected from someone whose favorite trick just went up in flames. But blocking me wouldn't stop what came next, because the video had done more than expose her. It unlocked something. I started getting messages, quiet ones, private ones, from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Cousins, childhood friends, even one of her ex-boyfriends. All of them saying the same thing. I saw the clip. I've been waiting for someone to finally call her out. They told me stories. So many stories. How she faked a panic attack at someone's baby shower because the attention was off her. How she pretended to faint at grandma's memorial because I was asked to read the eulogy. How she once told an old friend's fiancé that she had early signs of MS, just to keep him from proposing. I sat on my couch, scrolling through messages, each one peeling back another layer. And with each one, I stopped feeling like the villain in her drama. I started feeling like the historian. And I was done letting her write the script. I compiled the messages, the stories, the screenshots, not to post, not to shame, but to protect myself, because I knew her next move wouldn't be apology. It would be retaliation. And sure enough, 3 days later, I got the call. It was my mother. Riley, your sister's telling everyone you doctored the video, that it was fake. I closed my eyes, let the heat rise, then fall. Of course she was. The truth didn't work in her world, so she bent it until people believed they imagined what they saw. Do you believe her? I asked quietly. My mother paused. Then no, not anymore. That silence between us? That was 20 years of being told I was too sensitive. And it finally broke. Good, I said, because I've got more where that came from. She gasped. Riley, are you going to ruin her? I looked at the folder of files on my desk. The carefully saved memories of chaos I didn't create, but was always asked to clean up. No, I said. I'm not going to ruin her. I'm going to let her ruin herself, this time, in front of everyone. It didn't take long for her version of the story to spread. She edited it. She ambushed me. She's always been jealous. I watched it happen in real time, group chats lighting up, distant relatives suddenly liking her sad little cryptic posts, old friends sliding back into her corner like she hadn't burned them years ago. But this time, no one called to ask me for my side, because I'd already shown it, on video, on record, with proof. And her tantrum wasn't getting the reaction she was used to. No sympathy, no flowers, just silence, which made her spiral. She texted my dad next. I'm worried about Riley. This obsession with hurting me isn't normal. He sent me a screenshot. She always flips it like this, he wrote. You okay? I replied. I'm not hurting her. She's just finally feeling what truth sounds like. And I was more than okay. I was focused. Because I had a plan. I'd already been contacted by a wellness podcast, one that focused on mental health and family dynamics. They saw the video. They saw the comments. And they wanted me. Not for drama. For truth. Talk about how people like your sister use illness as currency, the host said on the call. Your story resonates. You're not alone. And I wasn't. Hundreds of women had DM'd me since the dinner. Each one saying the same thing. My sister did this too. My mom still makes me apologize. I thought I was crazy. So I said yes. And when the episode aired, I told everything. The fake fainting at my scholarship banquet. The panic attacks that only happened when I was thriving. The way my family always said, just let her have this, Riley. Don't make a scene. But this time, I made the scene. Not with screaming. Not with revenge. With truth. And the best part? At the end of the episode, the host asked, what would you say to your sister if she were listening right now? I paused, then said, I don't need you to change. I just need you to know I won't bleed quietly for you anymore. And when that clip went viral, she finally stopped trying to play the victim, because the internet doesn't forget. And neither do little sisters who learn to carry receipts instead of resentment. I knew she'd show up eventually. And when she did, it wasn't with flowers. It was with fury. She cornered me outside a bookstore downtown, of all places. I'd just finished signing copies of the podcast feature that had been published as an essay. The line had stretched around the block. She waited until the last person left. Riley, she hissed, sunglasses still on, even though the sky was overcast. You need to stop this. I looked at her. Really looked. She was unraveling. Hair pulled too tight. Lipstick smudged. Designer tote hanging off her arm like a costume that didn't fit anymore. I haven't said your name once, I said. You're the one who keeps confirming it's about you. Don't play innocent. You humiliated me in front of our entire family. No, I said, folding my arms. You humiliated yourself. I just played back the footage. She stepped closer. You think you're the hero now? Just because you got lucky with a recording? Not lucky, I said, voice even. Prepared. She scoffed. You've always been so obsessed with control. You think this makes you powerful. I took a deep breath, and then said the thing I never thought I'd say out loud. I don't want power over you. I just don't want to live under you anymore. She blinked. For the first time, her mouth didn't move, because it wasn't about the video, or the dinner, or the podcast. It was about finally saying the thing I swallowed for years, that her chaos wasn't my responsibility, that her pain wasn't a free pass to erase mine, that I could love her from a distance she couldn't damage me from. You ruined our family, she whispered. No, I said. I just refuse to let you keep ruining me. She didn't have a comeback. She turned, walked away, and for the first time in my life, I didn't chase her. Because healing isn't a speech. It's a boundary. And mine was finally cemented. That night, I tucked my phone into a drawer, lit a candle, sat down with tea. No recording, no evidence, no audience, just peace. The kind that doesn't need proof. Because my story was no longer about exposing her. It was about reclaiming me. It was my mother who called next, voice tight, tone rehearsed. Riley, she said, can we talk? Just us. I almost didn't answer. But some part of me, the child still waiting to be seen, still picked up. She didn't waste time. Your sister's struggling. She's not leaving the house. She feels targeted. I closed my eyes, counted to 3. Mom, she was the target of her own arrow. She sighed. You've made your point, she said, like this was some game we were playing. Do you want to lose your family over this? There it was. Not I'm sorry we let her steal from your life. Not I wish we'd protected your joy. Just the usual. Your boundary is the problem. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. You think I want to lose my family? I said. Do you know how many times I've dimmed myself to keep this fragile thing stitched together? Riley, it's not that simple. Yes, Mom, it is. Every time I got a win, she found a way to collapse into it. Every time. And you all told me to understand, to share, to be kind. Silence. Did you ever once tell her to stop? She didn't answer. So I kept going. She's not the victim here. She just hates that I finally refused to play the understudy in her one-woman tragedy. More silence. Then, quietly, she said she doesn't know who you are anymore. I smiled. Good. That means I've finally changed. Because for the first time, I wasn't begging to be heard. I was letting them sit in their own echo chamber and figure it out without me. We ended the call politely. But that night, I received a message from my cousin. A screenshot of a group chat I'd never been in. The family thread. My sister had left it. My mother had gone quiet. And someone had written, honestly, Riley was right. 3 words. Nothing flashy. But they landed harder than any spotlight. I closed the message. Sat with it. Not in triumph. In truth. Because I wasn't trying to destroy my sister. I just stopped letting her destroy me quietly. It happened on a Wednesday. I was walking out of a community center, fresh from a panel on emotional boundaries, when I saw the note tucked under my windshield. Folded in half. No name. Just one sentence. I'm sorry. I don't know who I am without being the one who hurts you. I knew the handwriting. My sister slanted, chaotic loops, beautiful, desperate, messy, just like her. I stared at it. not with anger, but with a stillness that comes when the storm finally runs out of things to throw. Because I realized that line wasn't a trap. It was a confession. She had built her identity on shadowing mine, collapsing when I rose, grieving when I thrived, suffocating me softly with 1,000 tiny crises no one dared question.
And now?
There was nothing left for her to pull from, because I'd cut the cord. I didn't text her. I didn't post it. I didn't even tell my mother. I just folded it once more and dropped it into my desk drawer next to the old family photos I used to keep out of guilt. Later that night, I sat with my daughter on the couch, helping her practice a speech for school. "What's it about?" I asked. "Standing up for yourself," she said, "even if it makes people uncomfortable." I smiled. "That's a powerful thing," I said.
She grinned.
"I learned it from you." And that was the moment I knew. The cycle had broken. Because I didn't just protect my own joy. I taught the next version of me how to own hers. Across town, I imagined my sister staring at her screen, watching her likes dry up, her messages slow down, her identity, wrapped in drama, peeling off, layer by layer. But I didn't feel pity. I felt peace. Because I wasn't winning in her game. I'd left the table. And the life I was building now, it didn't need a villain. It just needed truth. The final shift wasn't loud. There was no confrontation, no screaming match, no late-night door pounding like in the past. Just a quiet, irreversible moment. A family wedding. Not hers this time. Our cousin's. She came alone, sat in the back, didn't make a scene. I watched her from across the room.
She didn't speak to me.
Didn't approach. Didn't steal the mic during speeches, or stage a fainting spell during the cake cutting. She just watched. And for once, she didn't try to twist the room around her gravity. Maybe she was tired. Or maybe she finally realized that no one was orbiting her anymore. I stood to give a toast. A real one. Not the kind interrupted by performative gasps or attention seizures. The crowd listened.
Clapped.
Smiled. And she stayed seated. After the wedding, as I was walking to my car, I found her waiting by the exit. She looked smaller, older, like she'd finally seen the mirror she spent years running from. "I liked your speech," she said. I nodded. "Thanks." A pause. "I'm not asking to come back in," she said. "I just wanted to say, I know what I was, what I did." I studied her face. For the first time, I didn't see the version of her I had to protect myself from. I saw a person learning to stand without a spotlight. "I'm not angry anymore," I said. "Good," she whispered. "You looked lighter up there." I smiled faintly. "I am." We stood in the quiet. No hugging. No crying. No apologies begging to be accepted. Just two women on opposite ends of a long, complicated history. "I wish we could have been something better," she said. "We still can," I replied. "Just separately." She nodded. And that was it. She walked to her car. I walked to mine. And for the first time in years, I didn't look back. Because healing isn't about making people pay. It's about making yourself free. And I was. Finally. At my sister's wedding, lace, chandeliers, violins playing songs too pretty for the people who stood beneath them, my 8-year-old daughter tugged my arm. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Mom, we have to get out of here. Fast." I crouched down, thinking maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe the lights or the music or the strange looks from our relatives had gotten to her.
"Why?"
I asked, brushing a curl behind her ear. She didn't answer. She just pulled out her phone, my old one, passed down, barely working, and tapped open a video. "Look at this." And when I saw it, I froze. "My name is Valerie. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because have you ever stood in a room full of people clapping for a lie and realized you were the only one who knew the truth?" The video played in silence. Grainy.
Shaky.
But clear enough. It was my husband, with my sister, in a dressing room.
Kissing.
His hands on her waist. Her voice giggling, saying, "We should have told her by now." My blood went cold. The date stamp? Last week. 1 week before this wedding. 1 week before I helped her pick the flowers. Before I sat next to her at the final dress fitting, holding back tears because I was genuinely happy for her.
And now?
Now my daughter, 8 years old, was the only one brave enough to show me. I looked down at her. Where did you find this? She bit her lip. I saw them last week. At the house. I didn't know what to do. So I waited. And when he left his phone on the table, I airdropped the video to mine. I just didn't want to hurt you unless I had to. She was shaking. But I wasn't. Not anymore. Because in that moment, something ancient woke up in me. Not rage. Precision. I stood slowly. Smoothed my dress. Kissed my daughter's forehead. Good, I whispered. Now we go.
Not to cry. To plan.
Because they thought this would break me. But they forgot. You never betray a woman who taught her daughter to watch. And this time, they both learn what that really meant. I walked out of that ballroom like nothing happened. My daughter's tiny hand curled into mine. Her heart was pounding. Mine?
Steady. Cold.
Calculating. The violins kept playing. The crowd kept toasting. My sister stood at the altar, pretending to promise forever. And my husband? He sat in the front row, smug, polished, clapping like he hadn't already broken every vow he ever made to me. I didn't scream, didn't run, didn't faint, because this wasn't going to be a scene. It was going to be a symphony. And I was about to conduct the whole damn thing. We got in the car. I buckled my daughter in, handed her headphones, and said, "You were brave today. Now let mommy handle the rest." That night, I didn't sleep. I watched the video again. And again. I slowed it down, took screenshots, pulled metadata, everything I needed to turn this betrayal into evidence, and eventually into ashes. By morning, my husband noticed the shift. He walked into the kitchen, yawning like a man who didn't know he'd already lost everything. "Morning," he said. I poured coffee. "How was the wedding?" He blinked. "What do you mean? You were there." I smiled. "Just checking what version of the truth you remember." He squinted. "Everything okay?" I handed him the cup. Perfect. He kissed the top of my head like nothing was wrong. That's when I knew. He thought I was too soft to detonate anything. He thought loyalty made me blind. It didn't. It made me quiet. And that's worse. Later that day, I called my lawyer. Quietly filed papers under sealed notice. The house, in my name. The cars, all leased through my business. The accounts, I'd set up a secondary 1 month ago when I first felt that gut twist women are trained to ignore. But the best part? The prenup he forced me to sign? Null and void if infidelity could be proven.
And now?
It could. Not just hearsay. Footage. Footage captured by an 8-year-old girl who watched the world betray her mother and said, "No, not today." So no, I wasn't broken. I was arming myself. Because, what they didn't realize, I wasn't the woman standing in the wreckage. I was the one pulling the detonator. He noticed the silence first. No arguments. No tears. No accusations. Just stillness. The kind of stillness that should have scared him, but didn't. Because men like him think destruction only comes with screaming. But I'd already started the demolition. That morning, I sent a copy of the video, watermarked, time-stamped, to my lawyer. Subject line: proof. Let's proceed. He responded within 10 minutes. This will hold up in court. Given the prenup clause, we're in control now. Control. Something he used to wrap around me like a leash. Now I wore it like armor. I spent the next day laying traps. Revoked access to the business credit card. Flagged joint accounts. Transferred ownership of my company's tech assets to a holding LLC, one he didn't know existed. He came home late that night. Loosened tie, wine on his breath, arrogance in his shoulders. "You've been quiet," he said, dropping his keys into the dish by the door. "Everything okay?" I smiled. "Perfect." He nodded, satisfied. Walked into the living room. I followed with 2 glasses of wine. My hand steady. My heart not even racing. We sat. He turned on the TV. I reached for the remote and muted it.
He looked at me.
What's up? I opened my phone, tapped the screen, pressed play. There they were. Him, my sister,
A kiss.
a laugh, her saying, "We should have told her by now." He froze, didn't blink, didn't breathe. Where did you get this?" he stammered.
Our daughter, I said.
"The one you forgot could see." His hands trembled. "Val, wait, this isn't what it looks like." "Oh no." I cut him off. "It's exactly what it looks like. That's the problem." He leaned forward. "It was a mistake." "No," I said. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. You chose this. And now, so do I." I stood, walked to the hall, came back with a manila envelope, slid it across the coffee table. He opened it. Inside, the divorce papers.
Filed.
Stamped, ironclad, and clipped to them, a letter revoking his power of attorney, business access, and joint benefits. His hands dropped. "You've been planning this," he whispered. "No," I said. "I've been watching, and while you were playing God with my life, I built an escape route you'll never follow." Then I turned and walked away, because he didn't deserve a breakdown. He deserved to be erased. The next morning, my phone exploded, not with apologies, but with damage control. Texts from him. "Can we talk? Don't do this. I made a mistake. You're overreacting." And finally, the one that made me laugh out loud. "Let's be adults." Adults? Like the kind who sneak around with your sister while your daughter watches from a doorway? Like the kind who wear tuxedos to a wedding built on lies? I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to my lawyer's office and signed the final power transfer. By noon, he was locked out of everything: emails, accounts, even the building where we used to run our joint business. He showed up at my office 2 hours later, banging on the glass door like a man finally understanding that the world he built was actually mine. "Valerie, come on. Just let me explain." My assistant stared at him like he was a street performer in a suit. I walked to the door.
Calm.
Straight-backed. Quiet. Opened it just enough for him to look me in the eye. "You had a wife," I said. "And a daughter. You had a life most people pray for. And you threw it away for what?
A thrill?
My sister's approval? Some pathetic little secret you thought you could control?" His mouth opened.
Closed.
Opened again. I kept going. "You cheated on a woman who was building your legacy while you played house with my blood." He whispered, "I didn't mean to hurt you." And I said the one thing I knew would bury him. "You didn't think I'd matter enough to hurt." I closed the door, locked it, then turned back to my team and said, "Let's get back to work." Because while he unraveled, I was expanding. Later that night, I found my daughter curled up on the couch, sketching in her notebook. "Watch how working on?"
I asked.
She smiled. "An invention. It fixes things that people break." I sat down beside her, heartbreaking and healing at the same time. "You already fixed the most important one," I whispered. "Me." Because she had. While I'd been doubting, shrinking, trying to make sense of betrayal, she'd pulled me out, not with rage, with truth. And I wasn't going back, because revenge wasn't the goal anymore. Rebuilding was. And I was just getting started. The invitation came 2 weeks later. An envelope, hand-delivered, cream-colored, embossed in gold. Brunch for the newlyweds. My sister's name at the top. My husband's name, no, my ex, now printed beside hers. Like it had always been that way. Like I was the mistake they corrected. I held the invitation like it might rot in my hands. "Are they serious?" my assistant asked, peering over my shoulder. "They're not serious," I said. "They're desperate. Because this wasn't a celebration. It was a declaration. They weren't just flaunting the affair. They were rewriting it. Making themselves the heroes of some twisted little love story they expected the world to accept. But I knew what they really wanted. My silence. My surrender. My absence. I set the envelope down. "I'm going," I said. My assistant blinked. "You are?" "Absolutely," I smiled. "And I'm not coming empty-handed." Over the next few days, I made moves quietly. called a friend at the local paper, reached out to a woman I once hired, now a rising investigative journalist. Sent over everything. The footage, the timeline, the business records showing money transfers between my husband and sister's accounts weeks before they told me. The story was airtight, but it wouldn't go live until after brunch. Because timing is everything. That Sunday, I walked into the venue like I was made of diamond. Sharp.
Cut.
Unbreakable. My ex froze mid-sip. My sister dropped her fork. I wore white. Not because I was reclaiming purity, because I wanted them to know I survived. And I still sparkled. Valerie, my sister said, rising. You look like I've already forgiven myself for loving people who didn't deserve me? I asked, sliding into the seat across from them. She blinked. My ex leaned forward. Can we just be civil? I tilted my head. You planned a wedding in the shadow of my divorce. You sent my daughter an invitation like she's supposed to forget. And now you want civility. He went quiet. I reached into my bag and pulled out 2 folders. Set them on the table. Here's what civility looks like, I said. A cease and desist for using my daughter's name or image in any future family photos. And a formal withdrawal of your access to the family business you never helped build. My sister's mouth parted. You can't do this. I did. I stood, smiled. And just before walking out, I leaned in and whispered, check the news in an hour. Because while they were toasting to betrayal, I was toasting to exposure. By the time they sliced into the cake, the news had already gone live. A front-page feature on the local outlet Sunday Spotlight. Secrets, lies, and a sister's betrayal. The affair behind the brunch. The article was brutal. Footage. Screenshots.
Dates.
My husband's financial transfers to my sister's business account. My sister's smiling engagement photos, juxtaposed with time-stamped footage from the affair. Even the part where my daughter's video confirmed it all. It didn't just expose them. It eviscerated them. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Friends. Neighbors. Sponsors from my sister's charity board. Investors from my ex's startup. Every message had the same flavor. We didn't know. We're sorry. We've cut ties. They thought they were untouchable.
But now?
They were radioactive. By nightfall, their names were trending for all the wrong reasons. Hashtag Sister Snake. Hashtag Vows and Lies. Hashtag Valerie deserved better. I didn't post anything. I didn't need to. My silence had become their sentence. At bedtime, my daughter crawled into my arms. Is it over now? She asked. I kissed her forehead. It's just beginning. Because I wasn't stopping here. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about redirection. Over the next week, I turned the attention into action. I launched a mentorship program for single mothers rebuilding after betrayal. Called it Project Backbone. Because that's what we are. The spine behind every collapsing world. The ones who don't fall, we carry. I got a call from a publisher 2 days later. They wanted my story. The whole thing. And this time, I would be the one telling it. Not in courtrooms. Not in whispers. But on paper. On record. On my terms. Meanwhile, my sister's charity lost half its funding. My ex's startup was dropped by its lead investor. And the best part? I never raised my voice. Never made a scene. Just built my own stage. Because they wanted to shame me in private, and I gave them the gift of public memory. They tried to recover, of course. A tear-filled video from my sister's Instagram account, shaky voice and perfect lighting. I never meant to hurt anyone. Love is messy. Please be kind. The comments section wasn't kind. Neither was the board of directors at her nonprofit, who released a statement the same afternoon. Ms. Reynolds will be stepping down, effective immediately. As for my ex, he posted nothing. He just disappeared. His company removed his name from the website. His LinkedIn went dark. Even his gym revoked his featured member bio.
He called twice that week.
Left voicemails like they mattered. You got what you wanted. Can we stop now? You're better than this, Valerie.
No.
I'm just done being better for people who expect me to be small. I spent the week finalizing the first chapter of my book. The working title? Silent Fire. How I burned down their lies without raising my voice. It felt right. Because I didn't scream. I exposed. I corrected. I walked away with everything they thought they'd stolen from me. That Friday, I got a knock at the door. It was my sister. No cameras. No lipstick. No arrogance. Just her. Fragile. Tired. She held out a small box. "This belonged to Mom," she said. "I thought you should have it." I opened it slowly. Inside, a silver bracelet I hadn't seen since I was 16. Our mother's favorite. One she promised I'd inherit someday, then gave it away without explanation. I looked at Hannah. Really looked. Tears welled in her eyes. "I don't expect anything. I just wanted to say sorry. A real sorry. For everything." I nodded. "You did destroy something." "I know," she whispered. "But I rebuilt it without you." She looked down. I believed that. Then she turned and walked away. And for the first time, she didn't look back. I closed the door gently. My daughter peeked around the hallway. "Was that Aunt Hannah?" I nodded. "She say sorry?" She did. "Are you gonna forgive her?" I thought about it. Then I said, "I already did. But forgiveness doesn't mean return access." Because I wasn't bitter. I was better. And my peace? That was the part they never saw coming. The book hit shelves on a Tuesday. By Thursday, it was sold out. By Friday, the press was calling me the woman who rebuilt herself without burning the world down, just pulling out the floorboards. But the truth? I did burn it down. Every false promise. Every whispered betrayal. Every fake toast raised over a hollow lie. And in the ashes, I built a home for myself and my daughter. Solid, warm, untouchable. At the first official event for Project Backbone, I stood on stage in front of 300 women. Some carried divorce papers. Some carried babies. All of them carried scars. I looked out into the crowd and told the story, beginning to end. I told them how my daughter, just 8 years old, became the mirror no one could lie to. How silence isn't weakness. It's power under control. And how being betrayed by the people you love the most doesn't make you broken. It makes you dangerous. Because you stop asking for space. You start taking it. After the event, I found my daughter backstage, reading the program. "You were so calm," she said. I smiled. I wasn't calm. I was clear. "Is it really over now?" she asked. I knelt down and held her face in my hands. "It's not just over," I said. "It's complete." And that night, as we walked home under city lights, hand in hand, I realized something. They thought this would destroy me. But all they did was force me to meet the version of myself I'd been avoiding. The version who doesn't shrink. Who doesn't settle. Who doesn't apologize for outgrowing the cage they tried to lock her in. I didn't win by hurting them. I won by choosing me. And that's the kind of story you don't just survive. You sign it, seal it, and finish it with one word.